Today, Friday the 8th of May, we mark the 75th anniversary of VE Day.
We pay tribute to the service and the sacrifice of the entire Second World War generation, from British, Commonwealth and Allied forces to evacuees and those who served on the home front.
VE Day, or Victory in Europe Day, marks the day towards the end of World War II, when fighting against Nazi Germany in Europe came to an end.
On the 8th of May 1945, Prime Minister Winston Churchill made an announcement at 3 p.m. on the radio that the war in Europe was over, following Germany's surrender the day before.
By the beginning of 1945, the German army had been weakened and defeat looked likely.
Tuesday the 8th of May 1945 was an emotional day that millions of people had been waiting for.
Many people were extremely happy that the fighting had stopped, and there were big celebrations and street parties.
Huge crowds, lots of people dressed in red, white and blue, gathered outside Buckingham Palace in London.
They cheered as King George VI and his family, including Princess Elizabeth, our current Queen, and her sister Princess Margaret, came out onto the balcony to greet everybody.
Princess Elizabeth and her sister were allowed to leave the palace and celebrate with crowds outside, although they had to do it secretly.
The future Queen described it as one of the most memorable nights of her life.
Many people also attended church services to thank God for the victory.
But V-Day was also a great time of sadness and reflection, as millions of people lost their lives and loved ones in the conflict.
Many others had to continue fighting in other battles, and lots of people were being kept as prisoners of war abroad.
Even though VE Day marked victory for Europe over Germany, it did not mark the end of World War II.
In his VE Day announcement, Winston Churchill said, "We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing, but let us not forget for a moment the toil and efforts that lie ahead."
Even after the 8th of May, many soldiers, sailors and pilots went to the east to fight the Japanese, who had not yet surrendered.
So how will we mark this historic day today? Many people are holding a 2-minute silence at 11 a.m. You might want to do this with your family.
The British Legion have created a message board on their website, so you can join in to remember and celebrate the brave men and women of World War II.
Some people are decorating their houses in red, white and blue.
Others might be having a picnic in the garden. What might you do?
Send your teacher a photo of yourself celebrating VE Day with your family.
How do you thank someone you've never met? And how do you convince them you'll never forget?
How do you show respect to those whose lives were lost? How can you repay such a terrible cost?
How will you honour the effort, the pain, the fear? How will you celebrate Veterans Day this year?
It really was the most brilliant day. It was 1945. It was the 8th of May.
It's a date forever remembered as the day Germany finally surrendered.
The war across Europe had come to an end, a war in which many had lost family or friend.
It was a day of much celebration in towns and cities across many a nation.
The war had raged on for almost 6 years.
And during that time, it caused terror and tears.
It was a day of thanksgiving, a day of relief, but for some, just another day of deep-rooted grief.
Sailors and soldiers were dancing the conga, the line which they formed growing longer and longer.
People danced in the streets and they danced in the park. They danced and they danced until way after dark.
From out of folks' windows, lights dared to glow, and many a gallon of cheap champagne flowed.
A kaleidoscope of colour lit up the night, as did blazing bonfires which were burning so bright.
People held parties,
right there on the street, with sweet and savoury dishes laid out to eat.
There was hominy pie and corned beef hash, bread with beef dripping and faggots with mash.
The people of Europe were finally free, and many a face was shining with glee.
At the Western Front, the fighting had ceased, and now, all throughout Europe, there was much welcomed peace.